Hello, I'm Jonathan Bishop from Foliation Limited, just doing a thing on not only how to build a raspberry bed, but also how to maintain it. So there are two different types of raspberry. There's a spring and autumn. So spring, you tie it up this time of the year, which is sort of beginning of the year. If they're autumn bliss, etc., you cut them all off at ground level because it grows and then flowers in the autumn. So looking at how to set up a raspberry if you're starting this from scratch, so always having it raised is always good because you can mulch on top of it. There is a bit of strimming around the edges, but the main thing is the framework. So we have a 4-inch post here. Well, it's a 3-inch actually, 3-inch post with a vine eye. The first one starts just below knee height and then sort of every 18 inches, and there's 4 in total, and they run along there. So we're working on the first 2 wires. So the second 2 wires we'll leave until later on in the year, which is where we tie them up when they've put on a lot of growth. Now the reason we prune down, let's find an older one. The reason we prune lower down, and let's move further down this run, and you will see that when they're pruned off, and that's just a few inches above the second, they send out these side shoots, and these side shoots are what's called feathering, and these produce raspberries on the end, rather than having one very tall one here, and then the raspberries are above picking height. So that's the reason for doing that. Obviously you can see we're in a fruit cage. Thinking about netting it somehow is always good, stopping birds from coming in. Now you could have these centre posts up higher that you then drape something over, but you've also got to imagine picking time, be able to get in there to pick, and the soft fruit growing through the netting, and obviously you'll pull it off as you try to clamber underneath it, so you want plenty of room. Hence the reason we're in a fruit cage and we have an edging going round. Next up is, obviously this is an old run, but you need to think about runs. So we've barked down the middle, and as you can see by my mat there's plenty of room to get down the middle. But originally, so this row hasn't been touched at all, we can't get down the middle, which is where each time you come out to pick your soft fruit, and you'll need to do it on a scale of sort of every other day on a fruit cage this sort of size, is bring some string with you and tie into the top 2 wires. So let's look at old growth and new growth. So let's get right down close so everyone can see. So this is new growth this year. It's got a pale leaf to it, a pale stem to it, and has a much lighter colour. Here is a dead one. If you're ever unsure, you can always scratch the bark, and if there's nothing there, you know it's dead all the way through. But scratching the bark is always a good sign, and also looking out for buds. So that's the reason for doing that. Now we prune down here, depending on how the height they are, we pull in, so anything that's in the pathway we dig up, either pot up or move to the side, but we tie in at the first run. And we do that, let me just get the slide and show you with also a video. So if we wrap this round twice like that, there we go, that holds that firmly, because as soft fruit tend to fruit and the wind catches them, they can pull to one side, and then that makes it difficult. And then we tie to the top, and then we find the next strongest bud and cut a diagonal away from that. So what's this? This is 2 inches above the second wire. Some that don't make the second wire, we prune 2 inches above the first wire, and we tie in and pull in accordingly, and we have a run like that. Now the reason we do 2 inches above is obviously it feathers and side shoots. It's above the wire here, and it's above the wire there, so it's less likely to catch a wire and rub. So that's something to consider. And on the top there, we've got a label telling us what the line of raspberries are, so we can keep a check, as in a few years time that we always forget what we've planted. and good luck. Happy planting. Remember to tie in. Tying is important. Feeding is also very important, so I would feed when we start to see a bit of life. So not quite yet, they're starting to sprout, and I would put grow more down, slow release fertiliser, granular, just beforehand, and by the time these really kick in, because they're shallow rooted, it will take the goodness will already be down by the roots, and it'll spur it on. Feeding it too early and it'll put on growth, and then if it's too early and we get a late frost, the frost will then zap the fresh new growth. If you have put it on and there is a freak frost coming, so you've got the posts, I will put fleece over the top of this top wire and drape it down over these raspberries to help protect it. If you want any more information, please don't hesitate to get hold of me. The company is Foliation Limited, Foliation, but you can find out on our website, which is www.foliation.co.uk. Happy planting, happy eating raspberries. Take care.